Oh my gosh. Tell me about it. Ryan. So guess what I started getting? I just started getting them like a couple of days ago. They just started up. Did you lose Dan? I'll give him just a second. Meeting for this evening. This is our 2026 first budget hearing. Today's Tuesday, September 9, 2025. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll for us?
Mayor Grob.
Here.
Vice Mayor Samara.
Here.
Commissioner Amsler.
Here.
Commissioner Gonzalez. Commissioner Huntington.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum?
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So it's not here, but let's please do the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of the Republic of the States, one nation, under God. It's leftover from a packed house we had for the chief here on Friday night. Well attended, chief. It was very well attended. It was a very nice ceremony. All right, so let's go ahead and start with our public comment. We'll start here in the log cabin. We'll move over to Zoom. And just a reminder, public comment is limited to 3 minutes, and please provide a name and address. Thank you very much. Going once, going twice. Okay. Hearing none. Having none on Zoom. Okay. All right, so we have no reply. We have no resolutions. And just for the record, since we are now recording, and I just mentioned this to Commissioner Huntington, I got the email on Friday night for today's commission meeting, and I saw it in the app. So hopefully that means the email address list has been updated in GoGov. So that's a positive thing. All right, so having no other business, let's move on to our ordinances, which is our budget discussion for this evening. Brad, would you please read the ordinance for us? I do. I think. Not connected. I had connected. Okay. Go ahead, Brad, please.
Sir. Ordinance 2025-01, adopting millage rate for fiscal year 2025-2026. First reading, an ordinance of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, establishing and adopting a final millage rate and levy of an ad valorem taxes for fiscal year 2025 through 2026 in the amount of 9.3 mils for each $1,000 of assessed valuation upon real and personal property within the village limits of the Village of Biscayne Park, which is 9.03 higher than the rollback rate of 8.4009 mils, providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Brad. Do I have a first and second to move the ordinance to discussion?
Motion to move to discussion.
Second it.
All in favor? Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, great. So, and just remind me, Brad, on procedurally, sure, yes, Paul?
On the agenda, the cover memo looks like there was a typo.
Okay.
The percentage is not 9.03, it's 11.89 for is 9.4. Brad, I don't have it in front of me. I just found the 9.4 one.
Are you talking about?
It says 9.03. I think it's higher than that. It's just on the agenda cover sheet, just to make a report that that's not accurate.
Is it on the ordinance too, or is it just the cover sheet?
I believe the ordinance is right, but
Right,
I don't have that.
I'm trying to get it open.
Should be about 10.5.
10.5?
A little less. Nine three should.
It says 9.03 in the ordinance, at least according to the one that I just clicked on.
It also says 9.03 higher than the rollback.
Okay. Well, we'll make a note then to make sure we confirm the number if we approve the ordinance. I'm sorry?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, well, while we're looking for it, then while Paul's taking care of that, I just want to clear a procedural matter. Brad, if you could, just a reminder for all of us. We first approve the mill and then we move on to the discussion on the actual budget items, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
You can't establish.
All righty. Paul,
My mistake. It checks out. Sorry.
9.03 is correct.
Never.
Okay. In the crosshairs tonight, Paul. Okay. All right. So that's correct. Is there any discussion on the ordinance before we have to do the roll on this one, Madam Clerk, correct? Okay. Mr. Manager.
Yeah, and Mr. Mayor, if I could just say a few words.
Yeah, of course,
uh,
please.
Why we chose 9.3 and how we came about setting the millage at 9.3. So as you are aware, on May 30th, 2025, we received a letter from the property appraiser, served on us the 2025 June 1st estimate of taxable value. And when the provisions of Florida statute requires within 35 days of service of the certificate taxable value, that would be required to furnish to the property appraiser the proposed millage rate. The current year rollback rate and date and time and place on which a public hearing will be held to consider the tentative millage rate. On fiscal year 2025 operating millage rate for the Village of Biscayne Park, we were proposing to set it at 9.3 mils per each 1,000 of assessed value as certified by the Miami-Dade County Property Appraiser, which shows a 9.03 greater rollback rate of 8.4009. The property appraiser's letter estimated the taxable value of Biscayne Park at $468 million. Although the taxable value of many properties have increased, the real estate market, after years of growth, appears to have stabilized. We're seeing a decrease in certain markets that provide some relief for taxpayers, so long as they do not increase their millage rates. With the cost of home ownership, such as property insurance, continue to increase, the property appraiser has urged local jurisdictions to consider reducing their respective millage rates to alleviate the housing crisis. So we talked about this at strategic planning. We were able to get, last year it was at 9.4, to get it down to 9.3, and also to fund with the 9.3, we're funding all the collective bargaining agreements, their commitments to the raises within the collective bargaining agreements. And we're also funding all the 10 projects, CIP projects that we have identified and that were in the pipelines. So we're recommending that you approve on first reading tonight, setting the millage rate at 9.3.
All right, thanks, Mr. Manager. All right, are there any, understanding we're going to be discussing the budget in our next ordinance, are there any questions about before we vote to approve, well, before we vote on this ordinance? Yeah, sure, please.
Something. So
Go ahead.
on the ordinance that you have attached to the agenda in the first whereas clause, there is a blank line that should not be there. So there's not something missing. It should be,
The one that immediately follows the
word who,
the
right?
That's okay.
Huh.
That's interesting. Okay, so for whoever may be watching, it was just brought to the commission's attention that we may be having visual issues with the camera, but the audio feed is still viable. So, Madam Clerk, if you wouldn't mind just looking at that while this is going to come up in the CIP budget tonight. I know that. Yeah, that's strange. I see a few foot. Well,
Mr. Mayor, the camera appears to be working on YouTube.
so it's working on YouTube. Okay, well, we're working on YouTube. We're working on Zoom. I'm not sure what the issue is, but I appreciate you bringing that to our attention. Thank you. Okay. So Brad, you were in the middle of,
There's actually two things.
okay. So there was a blank on the first whereas clause. There was something else.
Oh, yeah, and talking to Paul, so then apparently the 9.03 is incorrect. So if I can, I'd like to reread the
Really don't like hearing myself. Is it resolved or is it just gone quiet? Doesn't sound as if it's resolved.
This.
It seems to have done it. We're still recording, correct? Okay, great. Okay. Brad,
So as I was saying.
yes.
So the first whereas where there's a blank line that be deleted, that's just a line that staff needed to put some information in. When they filled in the information, the line didn't get deleted. So there's nothing there missing.
Okay,
The record's clear on that.
okay,
But I do need, after talking to Paul, we do need to reread the title as the title of the ordinance as the 9.03 is not correct. It's 10.7 higher.
10.7.
Higher than the rollback rate. So if I may, just for the record, read the ordinance.
Yes, please.
So it would be an ordinance of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, establishing and adopting a final millage rate and levy of ad valorem taxes for fiscal year 2025 to 2026 in the amount of 9.3 mils for each $1,000 of assessed valuation upon real and personal property within the village limits of the Village of Biscayne Park, which is 10.7% higher than the rollback rate of 8.4009 mils and providing for an effective date.
Okay, and so it's amended, correct?
Yes.
All right, so do I have,
Want, just to make it procedurally correct, maybe somebody can make it
that's,
amended.
yes.
and accept it as amended and have
Okay. Do I have a motion to move the amended ordinance into discussion?
Motion to move the amended ordinance into discussion. I second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, great.
And this would require a second reading that you have all commissioners present and unanimous.
So, right, the increase above the rollback rate requires that we have all 5 of us here and requires a unanimous vote. Got it. Okay, great. All right. So getting back to the original point, is there anyone that has any questions on this ordinance before we move to vote and move on to the next ordinance for discussion of the budget?
To the next ordinance for discussion.
Sorry?
So we're going to proceed to vote before we discuss it.
Just to set the millage, and then we move on to the next ordinance, which is 2025-02, which is the fully detailed budget.
So I think we've done it in the past where we pass.
Table it.
Table it. Yeah, I was
Okay, that's fine. We can do that.
like, okay. So I think I'll make a motion then to table the voting for ordinance 2025-01. So we can move it after discussion.
Yes. Your mic's off. Your mic's
To vote down this motion before we can move to her motion, correct? Right? Because we already,
Well,
You
we can amend it.
You can table it
Okay,
and
that's fine.
it's a intervening motion is permitted.
Okay.
And you can go back and discuss your budget. And then what you would do procedurally before you approve your budget. So you can now table this,
Yeah,
go to your budget.
Tab-
ordinance,
We'll,
Have a discussion. budget ordinance.
Right.
If there's any- You either adopt it as is. If there's changes, you make those changes. You do not approve it at that time as amended, then you go back to the tabled
correct. Okay.
ordinance for the millage. You approve your millage, then you go back to the budget ordinance, and you would procedurally approve your budget ordinance.
Okay, that's fine. So, do we have a second on Commissioner Amsler's motion to table so we can move on to the discussion of the budget?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right. So then let's move on to our next ordinance, 2025-02. Brad, would you read this ordinance for us, please?
Point of order. This
Okay.
is a question that I have. If we're not approving this and we make changes, let's say in the budget, how are you going to figure out if that falls into the 9.3?
Because we'll know, we have Paul here with us. He'll be able to tell us whether
You'll
we
be able to tell us
needed the
that-
9.3.
That-
If we
that's the
haven't,
only-
then.
Yeah, because that
we're
would
good.
make sense.
Unless, I don't know that that will happen unless there's anyone
No.
here proposing we add a ton more to our budget,
No, definitely not. Huh? You only go higher.
which was 9.4. Correct. Okay, great.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Brad.
Ordinance number 2025-02, an ordinance of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, adopting a budget for fiscal year 2025 through 2026 for the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for an effective date.
Okay, thanks, Brad. Do I have a motion and a second to move to discussion?
Motion to move to discussion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. This is an ordinance, so I'll open public comment on the ordinance before we move to discussion. So we'll start with public comment if there's any here in the log cabin. Same public comment rules apply on the ordinance as they do for general public comment. Seeing none? Any on Zoom? Seeing none. Okay. All right, great. So let's move to discussion of our ordinance with the budget, and Paul is here with us to field questions. Paul, what I'd like to have you do for us very briefly, if you could, just kind of give us a brief introduction and summary of the budget we're currently looking at, where we started with this, and how we got to this point, if you could, please.
So,
Sorry, yes, Mr. Manager, please.
if I could, I'll go first and then I'll turn it over to our finance director.
Great, okay.
So we began this process, as you know, we began this process back in actually January, when when the commission approved us to go out and retain the services of Herb Marlowe, Dr. Marlowe, who was our strategic planning consultant and a moderator. And then on February 21st and Friday, February 21st and Saturday, February 22nd, we had a two-day strategic planning session in which all the directors were present, the commission was present, the finance director was present. Oh, sorry. And at that time, we talked about the projects that we wanted to fund for the upcoming fiscal budget. We also talked about one of our goals was to lower the millage rate from 9.4 to 9.3. And in the beginning of March, the village department directors began to compile their operational and capital needs for the upcoming fiscal year. and submit those to the village manager and the finance director. A total of 28 meetings occurred during the months of preparation, including the 2 budget workshops that were held to present the final proposed budget that is before you this evening. The 2 workshops, the first one was held on August 19th. The second was held at August 26th at 6 p.m. During those workshops, the village manager, the finance director, and department directors presented a proposed budget of $3.2 million for fiscal year 2025-26. The budget proposed addressed departmental needs, including increased personnel costs, rising operational costs the village is facing, including the cost of vendor contracts, material supplies, and property insurance, also investing in village initiatives and the village capital improvement projects. Recommendations came out of the first budget on August 19th. Those were incorporated into the final budget proposal before you this evening. Some of those are to remove the vehicles used by administrative code and public works from the police budget, verify fuel usage and adjusted projections, remove duplicate funding for other departments, made some organizational changes within the police department. The second budget workshop primary input was the public works, trees, planning and maintenance, administrative salaries, with them to match the approved contracts in COLA, verify the updated communications websites, web services, IT services, revise donation funds and selected strategic fund matching plan, updated the CIT to reflect current projects, legal fees discussed pending final commission decision, incorporated July financial statements and corresponding projects. The changes reflected the village's strategic goals, as well as the village's staff commitment to sound fiscal and operational practice, which continue to provide for our community needs and expectations for superior customer service for whom all we serve. So, Mr. Mayor, as you know, that tonight's the first reading of the proposed budget. We've asked you to approve on first reading tonight and schedule a second and final reading for September 24th at 6 p.m. And now I'll turn it over to our finance director.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Manager. Sounds like your mic is off, Paul. No, nothing. Still nothing. The mic issues persist. Nothing?
You want to grab one of these?
Have one.
It was working Friday night. There it is. There it is.
Test, test.
There you
Usually it reacts when I smash the button as hard as I can. We're just getting started, Chief.
All right, Paul.
So if the clerk could bring up the budget summary. Well, yours, the one that's linked to the agenda, can you open those? Okay. I can share my screen, but I have it open also. I just don't know how clear it's going to be through me, but I'm happy to try.
This is the one pager, right? The summary?
Correct.
Okay.
Are you able to allow me to share? Yeah, I don't see an option. Oh, there it is. Share. One more second. So somebody who's sharing has to turn off. It's giving me an error that you cannot start screen share while the other participant is sharing. There we go. It's gonna be a little small for everybody, but they can open it at home through the link in the agenda.
I'm looking at it.
But it's for us to look at also. There's no way I'm going to be able to see this. So basically, this is the most recent summary page. There were a couple small adjustments since the last budget workshop. The ones that you prescribed, we found one salary that needed a slight adjustment. So the bottom line is that this generates quite a bit of savings for the village, and we've directed that savings for you. But at the bottom of this, the key point that I want to bring up that the manager probably could have taken more credit for is that this shows a $125,000 savings in operating over prior year. So that's a pretty significant savings, and that coupled with the property value increase was another 400,000 in change, and prior year's revenue savings of about another 300,000. This year's revenue savings of about another 300,000. So you ended up generating a pretty significant chunk of change to fully fund your entire proposed capital improvement fund. Includes grants, includes matching, and includes all the projects that were listed in the manager's memo and presented to you during the CIP portion of the workshop. The other part I want to talk about, and I'll switch my screen to the
Sounds like you're off again.
shows a low battery too. It's good.
I think what we spent in batteries probably could have bought us a new mic by now.
Oh, look at that, bright and shiny. So the document I have up in front of you is an updated summary of the summary page where it matters to you all. And I apologize, for whatever reason, when I posted this into the email, there's titles missing on the left, but I'll explain them to you. So basically, the top line where it says projected note, adopted note, which there's a discussion below, in 2026 proposed, that is the CIP line. So you're contributing from the 2026 and from the 2026 budget, $577,000 towards the CIP, which balances that budget so that all the projects are funded. And there's also a couple of funds in there that Al can talk about later if he wants, but it's basically your drainage programs that you've been waiting to do, the log cabins, part of the recreational, all of that entire list, including the matching requirements. So we were quite pleased at how we were able to do that this year, and partly because of your hard work during the budget workshops, This is a tight budget, like I described a minute ago. The second line item is your unassigned fund balance. This is reserves that you have discretion over throughout the year. The manager decides, we really need this project. We want to get it done this year. I need money for it. It's not in the budget. This is a very likely place where you would take it from. And that total contribution, and I've allocated this money based on your previous preferences. You can change these as the allocation if you so choose, obviously, but you'll see in a minute why it made sense to me. So the unassigned balance fund contributes $177,000 from your 2026 budget. Your $760,000 from your 2026 budget goes to unassigned revenue. The net balance, and that's a net increase of 177,000. I read it backwards. So the third line is your emergency reserves that you have in your ordinance as a restricted usage. It has several conditions it requires before it can be brought to the commission for an approval and change. That would be for a hurricane recovery, some other emergency, like maybe some pandemic that we haven't thought of yet, et cetera. And many of those, I would also note, are often followed by some sort of reimbursement, but we've learned that those are percentages of reimbursement, right? So you're projected to have 2.8 million in that fund. That's a little higher. You may remember at the end of the budget, we still have to estimate these numbers because the audit identifies the final number, and it's coming back at about $500,000 ahead of what we thought it would be last year. This year, I'm anticipating that you could contribute $710,000 into that fund, bringing you to a $3 million magic line that we were hoping for emergency reserve. From your standpoint, that shows the village now would have $4.3 million in after operating funds at its disposal. And we've already been through the CIP, which having that fully funded, I think, should be very rewarding for you. As your finance director, where you were in the negative hole 5 or 6 years ago, congratulations. The key point of this is the percentages, and this was the health kind of thing. And Al mentioned in the strategic planning, and you guys talked about the idea of bond funding. This is all part of that. The interest rate that you get is how good a client you are or a risk you are for whoever lends you the bond money, the bond market. And these ratios really matter, and you're right on target for an excellent bond rating. This would put you at 13% in your CIP. That's an excellent, 10% is high for most communities. You've delayed a few projects, so 13% is healthy for you. The next one is your unassigned fund. That's just below 18% of your reserves would be in that, and 70% in emergency.
Can I interrupt you for a second? I just want to understand. These numbers that you're referring to, I see that you're reading it from here. Are this a reflection of what we have on the budgets that we are?
So the summary page, if you look at the bottom of the summary page, that's the amount of money that was showing. And I have taken the next step and proposed the allocation. One, obviously, we balanced the budget to pay all of the CIP.
Yeah.
So the remaining two amount of money I divided up as I'm describing now. Yes.
Okay.
And this includes projected savings from the current year and money allocated from the 2027 budget that we know we will receive, and we have no budget item for it. It'll fall to the bottom line, as they say, and that is funding that's what these funds will look like if you approve this budget. So that's a quick idea, because I'm trying to keep it like we do at the end of this budget cycle, is at the commission level, the health of your village, the amount of funds in each bucket, the dedication to putting about 70% in your reserves, about 20% in unassigned reserves, and you're at that level at a significant clip and a fully funded CIP. You can't ask for a better outcome.
All right, Paul, thanks very much. All right. So we've heard from the manager, we've heard from Paul, on what we're looking at, what's in front of us. We've heard a little bit about what's being allocated to the reserves, for the emergency and unassigned. Um,
Can I just say something real quick for the record? So I just want to congratulate our manager and our staff, because when we first hired Al and Paul also, obviously, I got a lot of phone calls saying that, our taxes are going to go up, our services are going to go down. And in fact, the opposite is happening, right? Our taxes are going down and our services are going up. And that's a direct reflection on the caliber of manager that we've hired. And that was the reason that I was pushing to hire a manager of his caliber, because I think that in the past, the managers that we hired didn't have the talent to create this kind of environment for our community. And so I just want to congratulate Al and staff, because you all have killed it. So congratulations.
Thanks, Art. I appreciate that because this is, an impressive budget. So I certainly echo your sentiment and I'm glad you pointed that out. Okay, so, I have a few items that I know that we need to talk about. We have a request from our village attorney on compensation, so I know that we need to try to settle that up, at this meeting, because we're going to be going to second read. So I think we need to get to, a consensus or a determination on how we want to approach that.
Can I ask a question to
Yeah,
Paul
sure.
before he leaves?
Of course.
Well, you said about the CIP at a 10% or 13%. Are we?
Your reserves, if you were to combine it together, it would still reflect a 10% investment. It's a little higher than that because it has some existing money in it, but this year you'd be, of all your savings, it's a 10%.
And when you say it's high, what are you comparing it against?
When did I say high? I don't remember how
No,
I
you
said
say
it.
it's a little high, 10%.
It's a little higher than a lot of, I would do about 5 or 8%.
Okay.
But what's happening is you have 3 or 4 years where you put money into it and never spent it. So you're in the sweet spot this year for sure, better than normal. You wouldn't have to dedicate this much had you spent those projects. Does that make sense? Like, because they're just sitting there and they weren't done, and not for anyone's fault. They just take engineering, et cetera, and time. But each year, a healthy budget, and this is what Moody and, all the rating agencies look at, are ratios. And the ratio of money you reinvest in capital is a very vital point. And so spending that amount of money this year is going to help you at that rating. And the better your rating is, the lower the interest rate is.
When you say it's going to help our rating, is because we have this assigned project list.
You spent money on yourselves. If you had this situation and never spent it, it would work against you
So we haven't spent it for about 3 years. You're saying this
of
year,
any significance. Yeah,
yeah, it will make an impact on the positive
absolutely. Yes.
because we haven't spent any money. So we're showing the fact that we're ready for it.
Yeah, if we have that timeline that we talked about, we're 3 or 4 years, 2 or 3 years away from when that would take place.
Yeah.
So next year's budget and the one after would be probably the calculation, and it would look good for you.
So for lack of a better phrase, this would be like an industry standard number then?
Usually less, so you're saying?
Zero is a really bad idea,
Yeah.
and 80% would be a horrible idea.
Okay, somewhere in between.
Yeah,
Okay,
because
great.
that means you really have a problem if you had to spend 80% of your money on 1 year's capital projects. But
All right, thanks, Paul. In addition to the one item that I pointed out, I did make, this is kind of a smaller potatoes sort of thing that I know we talked about, was that 25,000 from the
Yes.
county that I wanted us to talk about before we get out of here tonight, so we can provide direction to the manager, because I don't want us to lose out on that. So I'll keep a note that we should talk about it before we adjourn for the evening. But the way that I kind of see this going is we can take a look at the departments. I have a few questions and notes here and there. But as far as, I don't foresee, unless anyone disagrees or would like to do so, I don't foresee going line by line. Say we focus on our questions and the items that we had proposed edits to. Because I know that, in speaking with Paul, he and the manager in the departments have worked to adopt all the questions and the amendments, that we've gone through the workshops. So that's the way I foresee it. If there's anybody else that'd like to suggest otherwise, or a different way of approaching it, I'm certainly open to hearing it.
No.
Sound good?
My exact thought. Let's go department by department. If there's
Yeah.
a question, we'll go to that, not line by line.
Right, okay, and I know we have several of our department folks here with us, so thank you very much for being with us this evening. So I'm just gonna go right down the line from the zip file that we received just a little bit ago, because it's just listing the departments. It's it's numerically, so it should be the exact same. My first is the commission budget. Is there any questions or anything anyone would like to address with respect to the commission budget before we move forward? No? Okay. All right. How about administration? That's our next one. Are there any questions or anything anyone would like to bring up with respect to the administration budget?
I do.
Okay.
So one of the things I was pointing out last time was the need to understand how this additional position for assistant of the clerk was going to work. What it
So I
was,
know which number you're talking about, 12-12.002, correct?
12.003.
Full-time assistant. Oh, my apologies. Okay,
Right.
go ahead.
So that $55,000, I guess one of my main questions is how does interact in a role with the existing clerk? What are the responsibilities? I don't know if that was able to be addressed.
Mr. Manager?
So, Commissioner, we had touched briefly on it during a workshop that the assistant would be coming in and helping the village clerk with her daily duties now that she's pretty much overwhelmed with, that she's wearing many different hats and helping out with finance, payroll, HR issues, getting the agenda out, getting the resolutions, assisting with the resolutions, public records requests, and just goes on and on. So once this is approved, we'll be drafting a job description and also a salary range for the position, and then we're bringing that to you at the October's Village Commission meeting for approval.
Okay. So a job description will be approved in October, which means the position won't start at the beginning of the fiscal. I recognize you might need some time to address that hiring.
Right, we'll need to advertise it. We'll need to, you'll need to approve the job description, and we'll need to advertise an interview. It's going to take a couple of months.
And I had the same sort of question with the rest of the roles that were requested. My understanding, you have an additional position for the police department. We have an additional position for Parks and Rec and for the clerk. Is that the same feedback?
No, well, Commissioner of Parks and Recreation, we're taking a part-time position and making it full-time.
Full-time, yeah.
So there's just already somebody in that position. We're just making it a full-time position.
Mhm.
And I think with the police department, I don't think it's not a newly created position. It's a police officer position.
But it's not it's called NRO? Okay, but is that within your staff or is it a specific position? Because I understood it was a new position.
Right.
Okay, so it's an assignment within as an existing police officer.
Right.
All right, thank you. That clarified.
Yeah, so there wouldn't really be changing around his job description. It will be, he'd be a certified police officer that's be doing NRO responsibility.
Okay. So we're in admin, and as I just kind of scroll down through on 31 for professional services, we have our attorneys proposed for 2026. This is one of the, I think, one of two or one of three things that I had a note that we needed to discuss. As the commission, and since we're there, I think we might as well just take it up now. As the commission will recall, we received a request from our village attorney's law firm for an increase in service, or for an increase in pay from the budget 99,996 to at or about 175,000, if my memory serves. And the commission agreed at a later time to address it and discuss it. So while we're setting it, I think now is probably the appropriate time to address it. So is there anything that, that the commission would like to discuss specifically with with respect to the attorney's request for a pay raise?
Mr. Mayor, if I could,
Yeah, sure.
you asked me to go out and to try to determine if there was law firms out there or individuals out there. And the village attorney had given you some comparables to surrounding neighborhoods.
Yes.
I reached out to three people. One person was a former village attorney here that doesn't work for a firm, works individually. He said he's overwhelmed right now, wouldn't be interested in taking it, but he would give me a name, and so I'm waiting to hear back from him. I gave him a range of say $100,000 to $125,000. He said he would give me he would provide me with a name, so I'm waiting on that. The second was a major law firm in South Florida that is very well known, has done work for the village before. I provided them some information, some billing information that they had requested to see what the billing rate was and how often they were billed. They told me they couldn't do it for the $100,000 or between that range, but they would be willing to step in and help out until we made a permanent selection, whether we were going out to bid or whatever. If there was a lapse, that they would certainly help us out.
Right.
The third was a former a village attorney that has worked for the village for quite some time. He works for a major firm in Broward County, and he said he would be willing to come back to the village and do it within the $100,000 to $125,000 range.
It was an individual. He's
That
with
was
a
an
firm or
individ-
not with a firm.
He's with a firm. He was with a large firm within Broward County.
And it's just so I understand correctly, we'd be getting this attorney services or the firms?
You would get the firm services. He's with the firm. He's a partner with a major firm.
Okay.
So, and then if you're willing to explore that, I would suggest that you go out to RFQ and request qualifications, and then just to see and see what resumes you would get, and then makes a selection from there.
Okay. All right. Mr. Manager, I appreciate the detail that we can use in our discussions. So there's an observation that I had while considering the request for the pay raise from the village attorney. It's very similar to a discussion that we had when we were hiring the manager. Al had happened to be kind of in that pole position where we had experience with him, and that I thought that there was an understanding, and certainly I'm open to interpretation, that there's a value, we can place a value on what we know in the level of service that we have. So that's just kind of part of the thought process, between saying we approve some sort of pay raise for the attorney or go out and find somebody new. So that's just something that came to my mind. I don't know if Brad, if there's anything you'd like to share with us while we discuss it. I know you've kind of said your piece and that your firm has said the same. I don't want to compel you to say anything if you don't so choose. Okay, that's fine. Understood.
Firm, I can tell you the firm's not looking to leave.
Yeah.
But presently receiving is.
Okay, I understand that. So one other consideration that I'd like to be abundantly clear on is from Paul, from a finance perspective, from a budget perspective, if we were to approve a raise, not considering amount, I know it's kind of a wide range, but can you kind of proffer to the commission if we can afford a raise and where that would kind of come from?
Yes, this type of an expense would be a recurring revenue or expense that you would want to match recurring revenue. And in this proposed budget cycle, you have significant amount of recurring revenue unpledged. And that's why I had the earlier conversation about your reserves. That money, most of it is coming from recurring revenue from the new value of the community. So you'd be able to absorb whatever you approve today.
Okay,
Sorry, but where is it coming from again?
At the end of your budget, proposed budget, there is hundreds of thousands of dollars of money that will repeat. You won't lose that money. Like it's not one-time money, it's recurring. It happens you can count on it every year. So increasing a salary or a contract, something that repeats every year, needs to have that kind of revenue next to it. And my statement is that you have that.
Like revenues such as one, which ones would you give us an example that are recurrent?
It comes from your fixed revenue type income off of your ad valorem, your various taxes that you can rely on every year, that you hire all your employees with, that kind of revenue. You wouldn't want to, like, if you had to buy, I'll give you an example, you wouldn't want to increase a bunch of salaries, hire 20 people with reserves, because that once you spend the reserves, it doesn't replace itself necessarily. You only hire people or add to contracts from recurring revenue from your property value. Your property value is not going to go down.
So we've had a trend, obviously, upwards, to your point,
Right.
of about 10% to 15% in the last 3 years.
The last 3 or 4 years. Yeah.
So you're suggesting that should be the case next year?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying just like this year, you've got more value and more revenue.
Yeah.
But you didn't add very many expenses to it. You went down. You had a $125,000 reduction.
Yeah.
There's $125,000 right there.
Yeah.
That you could have used this year for any staffing, recurring, a one-time purchase doesn't count, but things that you buy again and again and again, like an electric bill, a salary, et cetera.
Would that have an effect on our millage rate then?
No.
Okay, so we're counting with that 125 you're saying?
It's a great time to ask for a raise.
Yeah,
Yeah, I want one.
so, so you're
Just-
saying that wouldn't necessarily affect our millage rate if we were
It will
to
not affect your millage rate,
by,
proposed millage rate.
correct, the proposed at 9.3, if we were to give the raise that is being requested at this stage?
No effect.
So there's another observation that I just kind of thought of with respect to the request here. It sounds like, we don't have too much help from the outside sources that we were hoping to have as, kind of a benchmark, so to speak, as to what we should be paying or what we can be paying. But a couple of things that Mr. Manager, that you pointed out was in the range of 100 to 125. It sounded like there wasn't a whole lot of interest. There was some, maybe. Yeah, one. So, and, the first individual you mentioned said that they just don't have the time or the resources to help us at this point. So, I place a value on maintaining the relationship that we have with the firm that we've had for several years now. And now my personal view is I don't see a request for a raise as obtuse here. The amount, it's up to the commission. I'm willing to propose a raise. I just would
So-
like to hear from the commission.
Yeah, so I completely disagree. I'm all for experience, how I feel about experience. And I think that, but having said that, the attorney and his firm are basically employees of the village. And if any employee came to us and asked us for a $75,000 raise, we would be like, yeah, no, let's find another employee. And while I understand the experience argument, any attorney that deals with municipalities can plop right in. I mean, it is just another municipality, right? So in all fairness, I think that, had Brad and his firm come back to us asking for an increase, a lot less than $75,000, it would have certainly been something, in my opinion, that I would have considered. But $75,000 from $100,000 is to me is obscene. It's just crazy. So in my opinion, and love Brad and love the firm. I've been working with them for quite some time. I think in all fairness, I think that we should put it out to RFP and get bids, because $75,000 is a lot of money. So that's how I feel about this whole situation.
Can I just ask you?
Yeah, sure.
Is any amount of money on the table for you, or are you?
No, definitely. Listen, I'm willing to talk about money, but I'm not willing to talk about $75,000.
I wasn't proposing,
Yeah.
it wasn't really very clear, I guess, that I wasn't really necessarily proposing we start there unless I heard some support for it.
Yeah. So, and another thing, Brad said because of what we paid the manager, they were coming back to us for an increase because, there's money there. And like Paul said, it's a great time to ask for a raise. Well, we still have to be, we have to watch the village's resources. So, yeah, I'm willing to talk about an increase, but I'm certainly not willing to talk about a 75,000 increase.
Commissioner, you were gonna.
Yeah, I concur with Commissioner Gonzalez. I think that going out RFQ might be a good option here, but I think that we should just discuss a number, decide on a number to increase this to, offer Brad's firm that number. If they turn us down, we go to RFQ. I think that's a good course of action here. I think around that 125 range could be a good number to start the conversation at and see where we end up. But I think that's a good course of action. Let's decide a number here. We're comfortable with increasing to. I am not comfortable with 175 either. And offer it to Brad's firm as a counter offer. They take it. Perfect. We continue the relationship. If not, we go out to RFQ.
I agree with that. I mean, everything that both the commissioners said, 175, I'm just $75,000 raise. I mean, asking for it, that's fantastic. I would ask for that too, but, it's just 75,000 is too much money.
Commissioner?
I think we set precedent when we already gave 87% of an increase to the manager. So the fact that we've done it in the past, I mean, this is not the first time where we would be doing it. That's my first point. And I think I do value the experience in the case and the history that we've had with the law firm. So I definitely want to keep them on board, and I'd be willing to negotiate a better rate. I'm not saying 175 is what we're ready to give, even if we're in a better standard than we are prior years. But I think my point is I want to retain the firm that has worked with us in the past and that has provided us what I believe to be top service.
So I'm just gonna put a number out here for the commission to consider. And I'll just kind of give you the thought process, I suppose. We were at about 100. We know 75 is where the ask was. You cut that in half, it's about around the 35 mark, a little bit more. I know that the manager had mentioned he went out and talked to a couple of people up to the 125 mark. So it's not a huge difference between the 125 and the 135. Because again, that 35 is about half of the increase that they're asking for. So again, this is just kind of back in that napkin math here. I'm just kind of throwing something out because we got to get started somewhere. Would the commission show any support for 135?
I don't know that you're going to find someone at 135, to be honest. I think the attorney made the case of certain comparisons. I think we've had the case of underpay and stuff in the past. Just the same way we all agreed 100 grand was not fair for the manager. I think this is one of those circumstances. And with the idea, at least on my end, to retain the firm, I would start maybe at the midpoint between the 100 and the 175 that's being requested.
Like 137?
Yeah, like 140 at the moment.
137.5?
Yeah, something like that.
All right. How about this side?
I'm comfortable at the 125 mark.
I am too.
My magic number was 130 and I didn't want to go a penny over it. So I'm more inclined to go back down to 125 than I am to go up to 137.5. So 125, that's my number.
125, 125, 125. That's as high as we're gonna get, then I'll agree with 125.
All right.
So Brad, maybe so I wanted to set a number, give you a number to go back with today, so you can let us know by the next budget hearing, or I don't know if you can let us know before then.
I can I mean, obviously we can't negotiate any further. Then sounds like that's your top line, for lack of better words. So I'll have a conversation with the firm. And
Okay.
I can inform you all individually whether or not the firm's going to accept that, as well as the manager.
Okay.
You're up to move forward from there.
Okay.
But for your agreement with us, we have to give 60 days notice.
Understood.
Brad, from my point, I'm willing to talk about it, but we gotta have a starting point. And my starting point for me is 125. This doesn't mean that you can't come back with something and I may acquiesce. But at this point, that's my number. But that doesn't mean that I'm stuck on that number. Okay, that's all. I just want to make sure you understand that I'm willing to be flexible, but I'm not willing to, go to the 175. There's just no way.
Certainly understand your position. I understand the commission's position. You know, process-wise, I don't know really how we can negotiate, sort of doing it publicly.
And meetings.
I mean, so it's either at the next public meeting,
Mhm.
continue negotiation. I guess the only other option that you have is that you can appoint a member of the staff or a member of this commission, negotiate on behalf of the commission. Obviously, it still has to come back to you. I'm just giving you options.
Yeah.
I know time is running short with approving the budget. And then it would still have to ultimately come back to you. Our negotiations would have to be publicly noticed. But it still can be done and on another.
Well, before we
You all want to.
Before we do that, Paul, can I ask from a finance perspective, from a budget perspective, if we don't have a number that we all are comfortable with at the second read, where does that leave us?
I was just thinking about that. You can leave it as is, and we can add a line to the whereases that this budget anticipates that there may be a change. I'm fast forward to the final adoption.
Yeah.
That this budget anticipates an allocation from reserves into the admin operating account to
Mhm.
cover potential changes in attorney's fees, not to exceed number, so we don't have to do an ordinance to move it back in.
Okay.
That's really what I'm just trying to do, is save you money and time.
I
Is
appreciate
that
it.
something you can do, Brad? Something conditional like that? Yeah. Does that make sense, Al, to you?
Yeah, so I was thinking about a little differently that you could continue the negotiations, Mayor, and keep it as a budget at $100,000. And then you could come back once the negotiations are completed, you could do an amended budget halfway through the year. And once you have decided what the true dollar amount is, and just amend the budget then.
Well, at the risk of kicking the can, so to speak, maybe the best thing to do at this point would be to have Brad return with the number that we've just provided. And then at the next, I'm not really inclined to appoint one of us to negotiate on behalf of the commission. I think we should just do it here at the meetings. So maybe Brad, if you wouldn't mind coming back to us at the second read, I mean, we're 2 weeks away from that. And just let us know the firm's position, and then we'll just have to attack it then. I mean, we have the ability to do so. So there's no reason why we can't do it at the second read, do exactly what we just talked about.
We could certainly do that.
That would be comfortable with me if the rest of the commission's all right with that.
I can tell you, the firm has no desire to leave the village in a lurch. I mean,
Yeah, no,
if for some
you said
reason
60
we-
days.
for some reason, well, it's 60 days, but if for some reason we can't terms and you decide to go out and look for another firm.
Yeah.
We're gonna continue our representation.
Okay.
So that- Yeah, you need a village firm.
Yes.
So it's not like, we're gonna walk away and say, we're one firm.
Okay.
That's not, we've had a relationship with Gulf for a long time. As I've said before, it's the business, it's a business matter.
Understood.
Yep.
Okay.
We won't leave the village.
Well, we appreciate that, Brett. Thank you. So it sounds like the commission is comfortable with it, and absent any objections, with waiting to hear from your firm at the second read of our budget to hear your position. Or hear the firm's position. Okay, thanks very much, Brad. Okay, so that resolves for the time being the professional services for legal fees. Are there any other questions with respect to the admin budget before we move on? Hearing none? Okay. All right, so next up I have police. I know Commissioner Amsler, you asked the question about the new role that the chief answered for us already. Are there any other questions about the police budget at this time, knowing that we have the chief here with us? No? No?
No.
No? Okay. All right, great. Let's move on then. Let's go to code. We have our director here with us. Are there any questions on the code budget? No, hearing none.
Or which one code?
Code, yes.
No.
Okay. All right, let's move on. Public Works. We have John here with us this evening. Any questions on, it's a little close. Any questions on the Public Works budget?
As I,
Yeah, go ahead.
as I discussed it with the city manager, I think we need to have put into this budget for a public works manager. Don is doing a fantastic job, but I think we have a lot of projects coming up.
Do you mean a director?
Yeah, sorry, director, yes.
So,
We need to at least have it in the budget.
Mr. Manager, I think if I recall correctly, I think we talked a little bit about this at our second workshop. Can you just remind us what the intention is for the Public Works Department and the role of director?
Right, so, I think you all agree that, John does an excellent job for the village and is a very dedicated employee that has been here for a long time and goes above and beyond. I saw him, this past weekend, preparing the log cabin for the police chief swearing in, and then still juggling some personal affairs that he had, and then coming back the next day and being here on Saturday and cleaning up afterwards. So he does a great job. Commissioner Samaria is right that we have a lot of projects that are in the pipeline, and we have taken. We've gone to the grocery store hungry, so we've putting more on our plate than we should have, I guess. But I'm confident that we can not finish all those projects, but at least have them awarded, the contracts awarded, and have begun on those projects. There's two major ones that we'll have to complete next year that is going to be a priority for us. But I had said before at the workshops, we need to find a director that is the right fit for the village. We've had a high turnover in village public works directors over the years, and we want to make sure that whoever we pick is going to stay here for the long haul and make it a successful operation. That being said, I think that there's money in the budget now. There's positions in the budget. If those aren't filled, we certainly can rearrange those positions and to get a qualified director. But I'm continuing to search out. But in the meantime, I'm confident that John that is going to handle anything that I give to him.
Okay, and just Paul, in the spirit of the discussion we just very recently had, we have money that's going into unassigned. We have reoccurring money that's going into our reserves that could potentially, upon approval of the commission and notice from the manager, could be reallocated for something like that, correct?
Correct. As was just described for the attorney fee, that's a great way to handle it, is to roll all these topics up into a mid-year budget amendment. You can hire the person, start paying them as long as you don't exceed your year's allocation. So that's fine. And then we can roll it all into a budget amendment, and it'll be pretty obvious what you're approving. And any other items, sometimes the audits will pick out things that we have to adjust, et cetera. So that I like that plan.
Okay, so in the spirit of Vice Mayor, what you mentioned, if the arrangements or the organization of this department were to change and a determination is made that a director is needed, the money is there for it.
Well, why can't we just put that in the budget as?
Well, I guess then that's a policy determination by the commission if that's what they want to do in light of.
Oh,
what we heard from the manager.
I just have a quick question because I asked this before and I'll ask it again. And that is, ultimately it's the manager's decision on if he wants to put in a director or if he wants to continue to work with John and as the lead there. So I'll ask the question again. I don't know what the intent is. So if down the line you want to hire a director, right, in the next couple of months or whatever, then I agree with Commissioner Samaria that you should put it in a line item. But if your intent is continue to work with John and leave John as the manager, and you have no intent of bringing in a director and letting John run the department, then obviously there's no need to put that in as a line item. So that's my question. What is your intent?
So I think we had this conversation together too, Commissioner. So my intent is that to find the right person. and not just to go out and put an ad and advertise it. I'm very comfortable with how John is doing right now. And very comfortable that whatever I throw at him, he's able to accomplish that. There's things that I'm assisting with him, some administrative things, but I don't see a need to advertise a position right now or to budget the position and put the position in 6 months from now. If that changes, I'm confident that we have funds, as your finance director says that we can move around to fill a position if it's needed.
So your intent is not to do this at any time in the very near future?
No, sir.
Okay,
No, sir.
and then that, for me, there's no point of putting it in the budget.
Yeah, I concur. I think John does a great job, and you know, if the manager's fine with his production, I really concur with keeping things as is.
Well, Commissioner Amsler?
Specifically on this matter, no. In terms of Public Works, I have questions regarding the changes. So you said you made some cleanup on the budget. Where can I see those?
Just,
I don't think there was anything in Public Works.
No, not in Public
No,
Works.
that we did theirs in the workshop.
Okay. So for me, let me ask, how much money are we allocating for tree replacement?
I don't have it open, but if somebody does have Public Works open, it should be in the list of landscaping replacement.
so I'm looking at it right now.
That was the item we had consensus last time to consolidate it all to plantings, which is $50,000.
Thank you.
I couldn't hear that. What's that?
It's $50,000 and that included some other items. We used to have it split up into really specific topics. The consensus was to consolidate it into one line item at
Which
the
page
discretion
is
of
that?
staff.
The 16 of 20 on Public Works, the line item specifically is 46206.
Thank you. I got it.
Thank-
Plantings.
Yep.
Oh, Mr. Mayor, if I
Yeah,
could.
go ahead.
address that. So, Commissioner, one of the things we haven't gotten to that the mayor has brought up that we're going to get to later is that $25,000 that Commissioner Steinberg is allocating to us.
Here we go.
So the top thing that I would suggest is that $25,000 go towards tree placement,
Yep.
and that we match that with another $25,000. So
You mean BI grant when you say we match?
well, we match it. Yeah, we match it with our funds from our general fund, but that we use that. We just don't take the $25,000 and not match it. I think matching it would be a good show, and we could tell her that also that we're going to match it. And
So what is the 50,000 that we currently have destined for?
Things like that and
Yeah.
other plantings that are annually done. It's several line items that used to be
Yeah.
really specific, end capping and annual flowers and such. And
So I guess what I'm asking is specifically out of this 50,000, have you set aside part of it to replace those holes left by the Australian pines?
yes, we were looking at $25,000 for that.
Okay, so half of this money will be for the Australian pine.
Right, and we're bringing to you an item in October that there's a Norfolk pine on 118th and Griffin that we just identified that needs to come down. That's hazardous, and we had an arborist go out there. Today's Tuesday, I think it was Monday night. I met him out there, and he gave us a report, and we're bringing for you a contract with Joe's Landscaping to bring that down. So.
Okay.
We would like to, eventually replace the tree there also.
Okay, so we have some dedicated money for tree planting. And then we'll get to that 25,000 very shortly, I think. Commissioner Amsler, were there any other questions for the Public Works budget?
And then everything related to ILA, I'm not sure if it falls here or is something we're going to discuss about CIP. But we spoke about this traffic data collection. We've been talking about it for 2 years. We went ahead and spent, a year into the ILA agreement. And then there's stuff going to come out in terms of needs when it comes to whether it's speed bumps or any other elements that we see necessary from this study. Is this something you guys think about for this year or next year? So that was a question I had, and I don't know if it was to fall within the Public Works Department or not.
I think that would probably be CIP.
Correct?
CIP?
Okay.
So we'll talk about it when we get to CIP today.
No, this has never been brought up. We can talk about it, but
Yeah,
it's
but-
not anticipated. It's not in the proposed budget.
Okay.
But any item like that, my reaction to you would be, that would be a manager-driven report back to you, a presentation of what you want, what you need, blah, blah, et cetera, and not to
Yeah.
make light of it, and a funding source each time. This budget is for known projects.
And I guess that's a question mark that I have for the CIP or this budget in particular, obviously because it would fall within Public Works too.
No,
It-
capital projects are capital projects. Yeah,
It's
we've,
under
we've changed
budget.
that approach.
Okay, all right. So it wouldn't be specifically here.
No, ma'am.
Regardless of where it is, it should be CIP. All right.
Right.
So we can talk about it then. And then when it comes to roads, same circumstances, I guess.
Not exactly. There are things anticipated in the roads, in
We can look up
CIP,
at it then.
and in routine maintenance that,
Nothing that would need or be needed from the Public Works Department related to roads.
Not outside of just normal repairs that John normally does, I would.
already
Okay.
proposed drain cleaning, et cetera.
Which
It's
is
already
in there.
covered.
Yeah, drain cleaning is.
Okay. What about the Public Works building, the demolition, and then what needs to happen to it?
That's also CIP, Mr. Manager?
Okay. CIP is getting larger. List of pending. Okay. All right, so those were my questions.
Any other questions on Public Works? No? All right. Move on to Parks and Rec. Any questions? We have Issa here with us. Any questions for, on the Parks and Rec budget?
I also had feedback and that relates to the hours, Isa, that you were asking. I was just showing you the example how the hours don't match to your request. You're asking for an additional position, although we haven't spent the amount of hours allocated in the past. So I'm still questioning whether that position is needed just because the numbers don't match it. Nothing was changed for what I see, right? Okay, that was my question. Yeah, I still have issues with that position just because you're asking for a full-time, and I understand why, support the idea of having a full-time. I think my only concern is that the part-time budget allocation you have sits within the historicals we've had. So I would have adjusted that. An example would be if we had 3 people before and part-time, let's say each one took 10,000 and you're removing a part-time because you're moving it higher, I would have allowed for the full-time position and reduced 10 grand from the part-time. You still have 3 people if you need to, and you can hire an additional, just the budget employee with you, sort of shadowing you. And because in the past, again, we approved about 50 and you still used about 32. So it doesn't justify the need for us to go up to the entire budget you're requesting. So that's where I stand with that. We can go back and, this is more of a conversation at the end. Hopefully we have, or I don't know if you guys want to address that now, but that's my only concern with that position. I will be okay with the full time because that for us is an investment a long-term investment that requires FICA and all of that. Healthcare, which we've seen, it goes up every year and it does impact us. But I would just slash maybe a percentage of that since you are taking a full-time job now instead of a part-time, maybe 10 grand out of your part-time. That was the only item I had.
Commissioner, can you clarify which line item you're referring to?
Yeah, so the way I looked at it, if you go into the, let me open Parks and Recreation, right?
It's 12 and 13, right?
The number, so the summary, the page number 1 at the top, you're going to see full-time salaries and part-time salaries, right? So when you look at the part-time salaries for 2021, you have 31,000, 22, 32,000, 23, 30,000, 24, 33, and 25, it was approved at 53,000, right? But we're not projected to spend that, meaning we're not using the allowable already with 3-time part-timers. The request from ESA goes still to remain using part-time of 33. But if you now have a full-time position that requires further investment from us, my proposal is slash part of that part-time, because you're in essence gaining a full-time employee and you're losing the part-time, sort of
Commissioner,
the-
can I interfere in this conversation from
Yeah.
a budget perspective?
Yeah.
That the demonstrated use of those hours
yeah,
and a change to a full-time position, I'm gonna suppose that that's a little unknown how the hours will ultimately be used. And I
Yeah.
think that's what I would recommend, leaving it for this budget cycle, have the department manager monitor his needs,
Yeah.
report through the manager what he needs, and these placeholders, we would take that up this time next year in his proposal to the commission through the manager. I needed some of these hours, look, or I didn't need them. I don't think you have a characterization of somebody.
don't.
Yeah, you know where I'm headed. So I think that's a healthier, gives them a little bit of wiggle room of
Yeah.
how to run the department with this full-time person that I think, and I'm looking for him to nod and he's frozen. So, okay. Okay. There could be a ripple that's unanticipated consequences. So so
And I think that makes sense.
but I think the point's well noted, and I'm looking for another nod. You heard that,
Yeah,
and the
Joe answered in the affirmative.
manager
He
nodded
just-
earlier. So with all this
Yeah.
nodding going on, I think there's a good idea.
Yeah, I tell you what is uncomfortable from an approval perspective. Last year, we increased the code budget significantly with the same sort of argument, if you will. There was
Yeah.
an allocation, okay, made and points made by the entire staff as to why that was needed and why it was supported. And based on that, and this is not, again, because what you provide us just estimates at the end of the day. All we have to base our approvals are estimates, okay? So when I read the numbers, which is the only thing we have, that's when I was telling you, it doesn't show that you've needed the hours because you've had the money approved and you haven't used it, right? So that's all we have
a good
in
point.
terms of
Yep.
approval. If you were to tell me that today, at this point, and that's why I brought it up on the workshop, I had an idea of a job description, and you have an idea as to where those hours are going to be allocated and how the phasing is going to happen, it would allow me to move forward in approving that at ease. That hasn't been the case even prior years. And as I told Paul, I'm getting better with this year by year, which is not great whenever I don't see the stuff that, I think we're supposed to have. And estimates is one of them. Job descriptions are one of them. We can't just come and say, we're going to need a position. That takes a lot of responsibility on our end. And just with the idea of numbers that don't match. That's where I'm feeling comfortable. I understand that would be the best scenario, that within your year, you had everything to present this today. So I propose to you this, present it for the next budget meeting. You have 2 weeks to put that together and come forward with what's your best allocation for this staffing you're going to have. I also go with the idea of basics first, the motto of we're going back to basics and you're increasing your staff. So again, they don't match to the number. If you came with a clear plan as how that's going to move along, then we'll hold you accountable, at least on my end, at the end of next year to that. Right now, it's just asking for a position. So I'll leave that for next meeting. Maybe you can clarify. And the
Perfect.
same I had for the NRO. That was my question, sort of to the manager about filling in what the role is going to be like. I had a gentleman approach me saying, we should be spending money, right, in community. We need to do the police work, but you just made it clear it is a police officer with added responsibility or assignment. So I think when you have that clarity, it makes it easier to defend it. And I have the same circumstances with the clerk, right? It's tough when we have no history of performance evaluation, job descriptions, or anything like that to require this commission to approve new positions. It's a big ask, even if we're
We're here to
within the
make that
budget.
history.
Let me, if I may, let me just say that I agree with Paul, assessment, to leave it as is, this year and look at it again next year. I think that, like, Paul said, it gives our manager, some wiggle room. So my suggestion is to leave as is this year and look at it again next year.
Yeah, I completely concur. I think that it's fine where it is at 32. And I wouldn't want to move it anywhere from there. It gives the director some wiggle room in his department to fund his new staffing model.
And because I'm in front of the mic and Issa's, a whole 60 feet away, one of the things he did say was that he had always dreamed of adding more events and activities, and he's never been able to say yes to those ideas and build them. And I think that's where he said, what he said in his presentation is that this will open up that possibility. And so then I can cultivate with the various volunteer groups, the entities that do events for this village. It's not as simple as just flipping a switch, is my understanding. And he'll probably build it out to create more programming for the village. I said that to challenge him too. So,
I agree.
but he did say that in his presentation.
I like to leave it as. I do think we need another full-time employer because I mean, if Issa has to go on trips, who's left in charge, well, he's not on leave, but he went on a trip already. Yeah, I just think that we need another full-time employee. And if the second one could also be supervising the other ones while you're out. I mean, I was at the rec center with you just a couple days ago, yesterday, and I was seeing, the work that's being done. And you have to supervise, you supervise the grass, we supervise the painting that's going to be done. So and also a lot of projects that we want to get for the residents. We can't do it just with one full-time employee. So I like to leave it as, but I definitely would like to have 2 full-time employees, including yourself, plus the 3. And so again, I'm happy with this, but I agree with, commissioners to bring whatever you can bring it back to explain it much better. But I'm definitely okay with this.
So Commissioner, I hear and understand your points and they're very well taken. And I appreciate you bringing them forward. I think at this time, I think what I wouldn't want to do is handcuff Issa in this role. So if we get to that point, you do find out that you needed the time and the hours, you got to come back and ask for it. So again, very well taken points, and certainly glad you brought them up. But I would be comfortable leaving it as it is for now. Are there any other questions on Parks and Rec?
That was my only one.
Any other questions? No? All right. So what I'm going to do at this time, everyone, is just, I think, leave cap. I'm just going to skip over to CIP. We'll just do that one last because I think the majority of these we're probably not going to have questions on. I don't want to speak for anyone, but the summary, we don't have to talk about. Revenues. Does anyone have a question about revenues?
No.
I didn't think so. ARPA fund, we know what's happening with ARPA money. Is there any questions about that? I mean, we're going to get into that with CIP. Building fund, was there any questions on building fund? My recollection is several of these we didn't have questions on at the workshop. All right, so I'll skip capital projects, CIT. Any questions on CIT?
CITT?
Sorry, yes, CITT, excuse me.
I have a question. Issa, you mentioned, Issa, sorry, you mentioned something. Do you work within the CITT in any way? You do.
He handles the reporting mechanism.
Got it. No, because that's another way I was thinking it. If there is stuff that you're doing that it's more related to administration, like figuring a budget, that contributes to your statement of the hours. And sometimes it's a 5% of your persona on an administration budget, 5% that you need a person to fill you up. You understand what I'm saying? I just I wanted to bring that on the CITT because I remember you mentioned it on the budget. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on CATT?
No.
No, okay. Police forfeiture? Any questions there? Hearing none? Got a thumbs up from the chief? Police fund, any questions there?
No.
No? Thumbs up from the chief again?
You better mean it now.
On the previous, police fund,
Yes.
I need your help. I need all of your help. Manager's gonna be bringing something to you soon. I need to bring that police officer back because that's the key to not having to use so much of the funds on the regular budget. There's a lot of money there pending on DAGs. And I need this to start moving right now. Today, I've been running around with the FBI all day long because we're about to lose a DAG because I don't have an officer over there. And it's 1% of $11 million. It's a lot of money.
This is the forfeiture you're talking about now?
Yes, sir.
So this is you're gonna be bringing this back to us?
Yes, sir.
Right then.
But again, I need the situation with the officer that I have assigned taken care of, and that's coming to you really soon, and I need that taken care of. Now we're gonna lose a lot of money.
Right. Nice preview then. Thank you, chief. Okay, so if there's no questions on the forfeiture or the police fund, let's go ahead and go to road fund. Are there any questions on road fund? Yes, Mayor? Your mic's off. Your mic.
Turned it off. Could you explain it? Because I know you explained about the road fund, about the reference to the two.
Sure. Road fund
Maybe
is
just-
in essence an extension of the Public Works Department. It is not really a separate department by operation standpoints. What happens is that we receive road gas tax, a fixed amount of money every year for gas tax, and the qualifying things that we can. It's about $70,000 a year. So the qualifying things that the village is allowed to expend out of that fund are really items that would normally reside in Public Works. And so it's really just $70,000 of the Public Works budget sits there. So nothing in there it's all formulaic. It's just a percentage of what we can to make that a zero balance.
I think the concern I had at the two employees.
You
that
were
were-
interested in
the two
making sure that
employees.
the collectively bargained employees were properly compensated and merit-based and bonused, and that's between the manager and that department. Because it's collectively bargained, I don't want to cover it.
Okay.
In public.
All right, thanks, Paul. Any other questions on road fund? Hearing none. Sanitation fund, any questions there? No, hearing none. Okay. All right, so then our last one is CIP. So let's take a look at CIP. So, I'd like us to just kind of discuss these items, if there's any questions or any discussion points, and then revisit the 25,000 that the manager made a recommendation on for tree planting, which I think is a good idea, but we'll get there. So are there any questions, looking at the capital, the CIP fund, are there any questions on money allocation or project allocation? Nope. This is CIP, capital projects, yep.
I think what I ask is first, if it's in the order, are they placed in an order of sort of urgency, or how would you address what is top priority for this?
So, to answer your question, Commissioner, no, they weren't in any particular order. They just came to my mind as I sat down and put them. But the two top priorities, as I said, or actually the three top priorities, is the roof for this building, because there's a grant that we've got.
Yeah.
And there's time limits on that grant. And also the $415,000 from the state allocations, that money, there's time limits on to spend that money to get that project going. So we're matching that to 415,000. And we're actually would like to put in like $500,000 so we could have a little more on that project. And then the ARPA fund money too, there's time limits on our expenditures on that. So those are the top three projects that we need to really work on every week to make sure they're moving along.
So let me see. So I'm looking at the Excel that you shared, is the capital, capital.
The Excel or is it the PDF?
Capital Project Fund. It's the same as the CIP, right?
We've got
I'm
three
looking-
names for it. Yeah.
Yeah, on the tab 60, right? It's the third tab or fourth tab we have there. And there is a list of projects. The stormwater repairs is at 1.5.
Correct. That's the two grant generated projects. One ARPA, one is the state funds. Those two have matching, one of them has matching funds. That's all allocated into one lump sum in this spreadsheet. But at the beginning, the revenue shows where the revenue comes from to afford those projects.
Okay. So should I use this list over here so that we can discuss today, or the Word document you share with the list of projects? The same thing, right? Let me just open that one.
Mr. Manager, while Commissioner Amsler is opening that up, I did have one question for you about the log cabin roof. I know that's a priority timing and we have grant money there. It says it's presented here as log cabin roof /ADA. Is that the lighting? Because the lighting is the next line item, but it was my understanding
Sidewalk,
ADA
yeah.
compliance was both.
The grant did not include the lighting. So like, but we had talked about doing the lighting and we'll make that, we're not getting any money for the lighting. It was just for the ADA, the outside, doing some work on the outside of it and then the roof.
So the ADA portion is not related to the lighting, because that's what I thought I thought lighting was related to
The
ADA.
ADA was to get access in and out of the building. That's
Understood.
from the parking lot.
Hardscape.
Yeah.
Right?
Hardscape.
Oh, got it. Okay. Now, for whatever reason, this is going back years now.
Yeah, they don't pay for lighting for the grant system.
Well, it was.
When did we
back
get?
a while.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. When did we get that grant for the ADA? What was it?
It was from the historical, wasn't it? Because of the log cabin being a historical building.
Yeah, it was for the roof, to replace the roof,
Okay,
historical.
but when did we get that budget?
When did we get that?
Yes,
Grant.
the grant,
I think we received the grant shortly after I got here.
It was in the last 8 months.
and that's the 78,106.
Yes,
Okay, so that would include the roof and making it ADA compliant without the lighting.
correct.
And the log cabin lighting is something you added to that so that we can finalize the project altogether.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. And that estimate, is it coming from an estimate from a vendor? How do you estimate in 50 grand for the lighting?
We actually, Commissioner Huntington had sent me a proposal that we had done. We had looked at, I think it was Chisholm or some other,
Giordano.
Coventry Giordano had done estimates for us and did some designs, and then they had estimated 62,000
The
So-
lighting.
for the lighting. Yes, I think we can get it down to around 50.
Okay.
Just keep in mind, Al, that when we did, I know we're not in compliant of some law, some regulation in regards to lighting and parking and whatnot. But keep in mind that the last time we brought this up, the neighbors in this neighborhood were not too happy about the idea of lighting in the neighborhood.
Right.
So we're gonna have to reach out to them and, have a workshop again and explain to them why we have to have lighting. It's not a matter of we want to have lighting. It's a matter of we have to have lighting per the law to be in compliance. So just something for you
Okay.
to keep in the back of your mind.
All right, thank you.
It's
Well-
Miami-Dade County lighting code for buildings and also ADA requirement for parking in ADA spaces. So I'm surprised that the grant doesn't pay for that because
Where the disconnect was for me too, because I
Because
remember lighting being a big part of that.
I specifically read the law on ADA to see that it does cover lighting for spaces that are open in the evening. So yeah, we're not in compliance and we need to get back to it.
Is there, so the 78, it's already a hard number? I mean, it's to the cent. Are we saying that's what's going to take to do the project that was presented? Or that's a, estimate we're running with?
Commissioner, just for clarity,
That's the estimate the state has come up with, and that's the money that the state's giving to us that we have to match.
Okay.
yeah, Commissioner, it's 78 from the state and 78 from us, so it's 150 total.
And okay, so 78. So are we seeing the other 78 on the revenue side?
Correct.
Okay. All right. So those two were highlighted as critical. Which other, Albert, so we go in order? Which other is a critical?
So we said the roof for this building,
Yes.
the state allocation for $415,000,
So there's
Stormwater.
water.
and then the money from ARPA for the stormwater project. So both those projects.
So the
all said
1.5.
1.5, right?
Those are the three major ones. Okay. Didn't we, so the IT, the website, is a website here? No. Oh yeah, website upgrade, 50 grand. Didn't we allocate the website before in the budget for administration?
Just, just money for the contractor to do their portion of it. There's no capital plan in the operating budget.
You know what I was thinking about that, and I don't know if it's applicable to building, but I would guess the majority of the traffic of that website goes through building. Is that a cost that we can assign to the
Just the building portion of it, if there's software or something they require to be compliant, which we've already purchased and we pay for through building. No, I don't know of anything new.
Like GoGov, for example, isn't that something that we could?
That's OpenGov is in there. Yeah.
No, I'm saying GoGov. No, you're saying no. I mean, it's because there is a whole modality that we're using, right? That has to
Right,
do.
and they pay
with
for that.
permitting.
That's already been paid for through the building department.
Okay.
But we
We're
are,
purchasing
you're on
already.
the correct track. We are allowed to use building funds for required technology, technological advances, et cetera. It's spelled out. We're as high as we can be.
Oh, okay. So we don't have more room for taking that.
It'd have to be very specific, like a state mandate
Okay.
of some kind.
No, I was thinking maybe the website could subsidize part of it.
That would look bad. Yeah,
Okay,
they don't like that.
never mind. Okay. So I mean, I know these are all projects we need to talk about each one of them. So for me, I had a couple more things here. I had the tree replacement plan. So we're talking about 25,000 potentially. I had cybersecurity, which came as a concern from one of the candidates that I thought was appropriate. I think we all took the training about what that means and what,
Like the phishing stuff you mean?
yeah, like cybersecurity and having.
That North Miami got hit with?
No, in general, we all were required by state to take like this training of 4 hours about whether we are prepared for cybersecurity attack, should that happen. And when I was going through that, all I could think it was like, alert. I don't think we are in any way even close to that. But it talks about securing the system, what is, I think we have some money in firewall that has to do with viruses, but not necessarily about protecting data for the village. And immediately when you talked about the 25,000 available, that was my first thought that came through, is that we would need a vendor to come and probably do a screening as to how vulnerable we are with our data. I'm talking about all public records. I'm talking about digital copies of everything, access and access hierarchies. I mean, this is all part of the training that was explaining, who has access to what. All of that is, I believe, state required based on this training we took. So that was the first thought as to maybe that's part of the usage we can of that $25,000 you mentioned.
Well, so the way that the $25,000 is going to work And Art, I don't know if you had heard about it because we talked about it last meeting. I had a meeting with Commissioner Steinberg. She had a District 4 Mayor's meeting 2 weeks ago where she told each of us that she has $25,000 for each of her municipalities within District 4, where we can submit to her our top 3 projects that we would spend it on, and that they'll make a determination. They'll give us the money to spend it on what we choose to spend it on. So that's what we're talking about. And so we can designate 3 things that we would or could potentially use that on. So far I've already heard, the tree planting from the manager, heard data security from
Cybersecurity.
cybersecurity from Commissioner Amsler, and we still have another slot open that we can, probably not enough for a pickleball court. So we have to deliver a list of 3 things. I would have no problem putting that on our list.
Yeah.
If we want to prioritize them, at least so far, I would say tree planting is probably number 1.
Yeah.
And then data security would be number 2. So for cybersecurity.
Yes.
So I think that's fine.
Okay. And then I had SOPs, and I think did you mention that was going to be part of the administration budget? Like not specifically assign any money to SOPs, right? You were going to work on that within your scope, but not outsource it.
I think, Commissioner, you may be talking about the policy and procedure manual.
Both. So you address the policy and procedures manual.
We're going to bring somebody in, a vendor to assist us in rewriting and updating the policy and procedure manual.
Do you see the SOPs as something needed for this year or not?
I think the SOPs are ongoing. Each director is working individually on those.
So it's within the scope of
Yeah,
staff
yeah.
already, nothing to outsource. Okay. So that answers my questions on SOPs. And then the biggest one was about roads. And I know this was one of the things that was discussed during the workshop, but can you guys let me know what is the plan to address road long-term? How are we going to make this happen?
So Commissioner, Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So Commissioner, there's currently, I think we're under the code of silence right now for an RFP to do the road around this location.
Yeah.
And then we're looking to do at least 1 project a year, maybe 2, to see what money, at the halfway through the year, I'll look again to see if there's any money to do another road. I think there's another particular road that has been mentioned not only at the strategic planning, but has been mentioned recently that's in quite bad shape. But then long term, we're looking to float some bonds in 2028 to do all the roads at one time.
On 2028. So the idea, so what was, how is it going to work? So from now until 2028, the idea is to have aside budgets to treat the most urgent streets.
Well, the plan would be from now until 2028 to put at least $50,000 aside each year to do the worst roads within the village. Yeah.
Meaning just overall maintenance. We're not redoing the roads.
No.
We're just potholes and filling it up, or
Complete new road.
new road.
Yes, that's what we're doing here is a complete new road.
Okay. And you're saying that with $50,000 a year?
Yes, that's what we would like to budget.
Is that what was agreed with you all?
It's my recollection, going back to that strategic planning session, that we all agreed that infrastructure is a big
Yeah.
area of need right now. We have a lot of roads that need paving, but we don't have the money to do them all at once.
Yeah.
I remember it was part of the larger kind of bonding discussion on exploring where bonding could potentially be used to fund some of these bigger projects.
Yeah.
But in the interim, do as the manager just mentioned, address it on an as-needed basis, kind of identify where we can do the paving
Mhm.
and pave them as we go, while we kind of keep an eye towards the larger fix, doing them all.
So one of the things that I had asked the manager was and obviously we're under a cone of silence, so we can't discuss that now, but after the cone of silence, we'll be able to discuss it, was what is the cost to do a road, however they figure it out, whether it's per foot, square foot, whatever, so that we have an idea of, because right now we have no idea what it actually costs, right? So that's the first thing that we need to figure out is what is it, and not, every year it's going to change, but at least we have an idea of what it's going to cost to fix, a mile of road or whatever. That's the first thing. And then the second thing, obviously, from an administration standpoint, that they need to do is figure out, have a list of which are the worst roads in our village, right? And then, schedule those for to address on a yearly basis. I don't know if we have that list yet, but definitely something that John and the team should be working on is getting and identifying a list of which are the worst roads in our community, and then, addressing them on a yearly basis. So once we have those two things, then we'll be able to, on a yearly basis, say, okay, 50,000 will fix 2 roads or 3 roads or whatever. Or maybe we have to put a little bit more money. But whatever it is, but right now we're just shooting in the dark. We have no idea what it costs. So, once we have that, then we'll be able to figure out something.
I think that's a good plan going forward, is try to tackle one major road project a year to get us to bonding. I did do a good amount of homework on what roads cost, looking at other people's contracts and things like that. The manager is right on par with about $50,000. It's done by Square Yard, by the way, Square Yard. I trust me, I did a deep dive on different people's contracts and what it costs and things like that prior to the cone of silence. And so I just wanted to see what a road would cost, and that number is pretty spot on. So I think that there's opportunities for piggybacks and things like that to get into some cost savings. But I think that's a great plan, is to try to tackle our worst affected roads yearly. I do like the manager's idea of trying to maybe put a contingent project down at the bottom. If there's an additional 50,000 at the end of the year, that we tackle another road. I would love to see that happen. But ultimately, the big impact we hear is bonding, to try to do the entire system and really look at the traffic system as a whole, not just Band-Aids.
I just have a quick question on the whole bonding thing, right? So one of the things that, we've been talking about, not only us, but also the county and everybody and their mama, is that, eventually we're going, and I know that you've been very involved in this, is eventually we're going to go to, from septic to sewer. Yeah. Right? And eventually, whatever that is, right? So that particular element in the equation also has something to bear, because if we go to bond and we fix all of the roads, and then the following year they decide, well, we're going to start installing, sewer lines, there goes our roads. So that's just something that, we also need to be aware of. I have no idea if it's ever going to happen, but that's just something that they're definitely talking about. So.
We have already identified a list of the roads based on Mario's project for stormwater. The key areas and the vulnerability study came forward, also highlighting those areas. So there are corners and streets already identified that are going to be addressed via stormwater changes. That's going to repave the streets like we did not last year, the year before. I think it was 5 streets that we touched. So we have 5 streets or so, or 7, I don't know, I was asking the manager. I know that there is a document, that comes since Mario that address all the different areas. So those streets are going to be touched. So eventually those are going to be the ones within the stormwater assessment and solution. The rest is it's going to be on a base by, case by case.
Yeah, so I think
Understand.
we're talking generally about the same thing, but I think it's 2 different things. One is I remember, it's somewhere in the emails, that Mario had the phased out where these storm drains are going to go. Obviously, we're employing that to make the improvements that we're making with the ARPA funds and with the state appropriations. And just very quickly, Mr. Manager, I don't know if you can confirm this now. The area that we're looking at paving was not subject, or was not identified to be for stormwater, correct?
This area here around the log cabin, no.
Okay, so at least we know in the immediate future, that's not a scenario we have to worry about. But to Art's point, the larger discussion of septic to sewer, I think because we have no idea of how far that out is, because for the last 3 years, everybody I've spoken to said that this is such a huge project. We could maybe talk about it when we get to the bonding discussions about if we're going to bond for however much money, maybe we bond for more, or what it would look like to maybe go a little bit more and try to tackle that. I don't know. I think we're still a little ways away from that.
Mr. Mayor, if I
Yeah.
interject, there are really good grant opportunities that are coming out. One is the Biscayne Bay Water Quality Grant.
Yeah.
That Miami Shores is currently using to implement septic to sewer, and they utilized it for a septic to sewer plan. That's part of my discussion during strategic planning this January, is that I think we should be reaching out to that grant to start the conversation with reaching out a grant application for a septic to sewer plan.
Yeah.
That's our first step. And the state of Florida is supplying that grant, and it's only people that are affected by Biscayne Bay, that affect Biscayne Bay into. So I think that's the first step. I think
Yeah.
That's where we step off.
Right. So we have to approach this kind of step by step, because there's so much uncertainty in our future about where this is going to go, how much it's going to cost, whether we qualify for it. So this actually kind of works to our benefit, I think, in approaching this in a road by road kind of process right now, where we can identify some roads that aren't going to be damaged or ripped up if we fix them by our drainage projects. And then I would love to revisit that idea of getting some money to plan out what that looks like. Because then we have something tangible in front of us that we can read, and we understand, what it would look like, what it would cost. And then, it's not so amorphous anymore.
Can I ask, so how would this work? Because I know the feedback we'll get if we say we're going to go road by road is me first.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm sure a lot of people would feel that their roads are priority need than others. So how do we plan to assess that? If this is going to be internal work, it's not a vendor we hire to do an assessment.
I think it would be one of two ways. One might employ the suggestion that Art has made, that starts with John and his department working with the manager to say, let's assess our road quality. It's going to be, I don't know if there's an objective way to do that other than go out there and say, there's a pothole, there's a pothole, there's a pothole. It may be more subjective. I don't know what that process looks like internally. So, the manager and John can certainly work on that. The other way that I could see it potentially being addressed would be through a contractor that could maybe come in, and this kind of also ties into what you raised earlier on, ILA and traffic commissioner,
Yeah.
is we've been talking about a road study for a while because ours is so old. Maybe a road study employs some of that about, okay, this is what traffic looks like. These are the most traversed roads, and by nature being the most traversed, they're the most damaged.
Mhm.
Those things kind of all may have some interplay between each other, and I think that it's going to be up to the manager to maybe explore both of those options and tell us which one he thinks would best achieve the result that we need.
Listen, I know John drives these streets every single day. I don't think John's going to have a hard time figuring out real quick which roads need help, like ASAP. So I trust John that's driving around every street all day long.
Mr. Mayor, we also, in our CIP here is Safer Streets for All, which is a citywide study of the safety of our streets, and it weighs very heavily pedestrian safety. So I expect they would touch on, hey, these roads are not pedestrian safe because of the potholes and things like that. So I think that data encompassing with John's, firsthand knowledge, and the Public Works Department's firsthand knowledge, and even the Code Department, they're out there pounding the pavement as well. I think that we can get that data that we need without maybe an outside vendor. And then this is kind of getting into strategic planning a little bit, but once we get that data back in January, the other piece to this puzzle of funding that we talked about a couple months ago is the ordinance on assessments. That if we see a dire need and we can't wait for year by year, we need to do 2 or 3 this year, that there's always that option we can employ in January to assess next year. Can't do it this year, but next year.
Hey, while we're talking about roads, I have an unrelated question that just for us to talk about real quick about roads. So some of our roads internally in this village, you can literally only fit one car going one way, and they're two-way streets, right? And when a car is coming the other way, you literally got to get on the swale to avoid getting hit. So I guess the question is, when we're doing these roads, do we have an opportunity to perhaps widen those roads a little bit, you know, taking up some of the some of the swale. Just thinking out loud here, right? Because, or maybe even considering making them one-way streets, because I know for a fact every day that I see it, when I'm walking, people have to get off the street when a car's coming down because they don't fit. The two cars don't fit. I guess they used to have just horse and buggy here back in the day, and so they would just, you know, just drive the horse and buggy down the street. But now we have cars, so that's just also something to think about when we're working on our roads. If there's an opportunity to maybe widen them a little bit, or even consider making them one way. I don't know.
I think it's a good point in, you know, from that perspective and traffic perspectives. One of the other things that the county had addressed was, you know, if you remember, you know, years ago, we were told that we couldn't lower the speed limits. The county, through Commissioner Steinberg, is from my understanding, they're going to be proposing something to the county that would allow municipalities such as ours to lower the speed limits to go below 25. So it's a little different than I think the point you're trying to make, but it's well taken. But maybe we could even, you know, if we can't do that, maybe we could slow the cars down a little bit. Might be a solution.
Commissioner, that is definitely something that Safe Streets for All touches on is traffic changes. And once we get that plan, we can apply for implementation funds that help pay for those changes in traffic. So that's definitely something they touch on in that study.
I remember we talked about it when we spoke about safe streets for all. I think that should be a priority. It keeps coming up as one of the things that we need to do. So I think that's another one we are all in agreement that needs to happen because it would provide a lot of information for decision making too. So that's
Thank-
25,000.
Yep.
I'm just like scratching as we go. Public Works building demolition, 50,000. That's just the demolition. What happens in replacement of that, Mr. Manager?
So that would be year two, Commissioner, we would start looking at a design for the replacement.
For next year?
Year two, we're looking at 26, 27.
Okay. So this year we just will move forward with demolishing the structure. And what do you do with the stuff in between? What's the plan? What holes inside of it?
What's there now?
Yeah.
So we have the storage crates where we would put all the stuff in storage crates.
Okay. So that would be enough for us to hold on until we can figure that out. Okay. I think we all agree that that's another priority. Are we paying for that storage in the meantime? Yeah. Where we store and so what's
I
the
haven't seen
cost?
any bill. I think those were bought outright. So
Oh, really?
yeah, those storage crates that we have there, I haven't seen any lease agreements or anything. No.
It's
So I
an
think-
expenditure that dates back to Mario. We bought new Conex boxes. And I remember, I think we talked about selling the old ones. And the building is completely abandoned. There's nothing being housed inside that building right now.
No, I'm talking about the storage unit.
Oh, it's storage in their facility. It's like shipping containers that
The shipping.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not leasing them.
they were
Alright.
purchased outright
Yeah,
years ago.
Okay. All right. So we don't have a cost ongoing for sitting on this. So that makes it not as urgent, maybe. Okay. How was the road around the log cabin identified as most urgent?
So that, I think that was the second day of strategic planning. You didn't attend, Commissioner. We had talked about that. And there was consensus agreement that that was a road that a lot of people come and visit, and it showcases our village,
Mm-hmm.
and that should be our priority.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree, and you know, it's probably one of the few things I agree with Trump, and that is that the capital should be, you know, the best looking area where people come and visit our government and you know, drive through here. So that was one of the things that we had discussed during our strategic planning.
Log cabin upgrades for sound and stuff. How do you assess the 50,000 that's set up?
Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Sure.
So we're getting 3 quotes right
Mhm.
now. So the $50,000 is part of the Cadillac service that we need and probably deserve. So that's why we came up with the $50,000, but I'm sure it's going to be lower than that.
Website, we talked about 50 grand for the Cadillac, right?
That's correct.
Awesome. I think the website is a sort of urgent because there is a lot of information that needs upgrading from content, but also for usage every day, from permitting to you name it, and it conveys the information that's from the app.
Well, we were just saying that our computers are plugged in, but I don't know if nobody's, it's not charging.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Have one. So those were the things I had. And again, I don't know how you prioritize one after the other. It seems to me they're all urgent, many of which, we've been betting on for a few years now. So all sort of need to happen. And I'm in agreement with everything I see. I was just wondering how to treat urgency between the traffic collection data, that stuff that we talked about, the ILA, which I didn't see. So let me ask something. So say, Paul, that our traffic study, instead of 50,000, I'm going to go in a different example. Let's say the login upgrades, the IT cameras, instead of 50,000, we spend 30. We have 20 left. That sits only to be used on the project, or it will be fine for us to move throughout the year, correct?
Dire need. The IT upgrades. Dire need.
The only restriction from our financial guidelines would be that it stay within its fund. If you needed to, the manager would obviously report it to you. If you needed more funds, you would do an interfund transfer by ordinance.
Okay. And fund transfer, but say it stays here as an LCIP.
If it's within the fund, it's within the manager's discretion, but CIP would
We'd
need your,
absorb that, and we don't need the ordinance to
your,
adapt
yeah,
it.
your input.
Okay.
Well,
Right.
Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Please.
On those same lines, so if there's another project that's over, we could still take from CIP because there's a cost savings on another project, correct?
Yeah, you have discretion
Right.
to manage the fund. Yep.
So you're saying if the roads cost more money, you can move along within the CIP fund? Yes. Okay. Yep. And the parking 550, is that an estimate as well, phase one?
No, that was we're talking to the consultant and stuff. There was estimates that he had given us, and that's a more
Realistic.
realistic view of that number, I think.
Regional, what was like 265?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
See if you get there. Isa, I remember my question for you. It's coming up. Don't panic. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. All right. It's a good thing. Do you have any other questions for CIP right now?
I don't have any more questions.
Okay. So the last item that I had then was the 25,000. So I think we've already identified 2 projects, because remember, we just have to identify 3 projects that we would potentially use it on. I certainly like the manager's idea of identifying tree planting, because I think 25 could get us some mature trees, which would be great. Then we don't have to wait for so long for them to grow. So that with a match, I think, from the planting line item from Public Works is a great idea. It's more incentive to provide it to us for that. I'm no issue. I think that Commissioner Amsler brings up a good point with cybersecurity for being kind of our second. And Issa, the question I had for you was, what is $25,000, just hypothetically, what would that get you for playground equipment or for rec equipment? A slide?
The fence around the playground.
The basketball court?
You want to go to the mic?
Yeah, it might be a good idea.
Yeah, so you have.
Thank you. Good point.
You
Yeah, we got,
have it in your pocket. Come on.
Make it quick. Yeah, so we've already got quotes for the resurfacing of the court, so that would fit under that 25. And then for that, we've done down and just focus on the secondary playground. 25, like Commissioner Gonzalez said, wouldn't be much for in regards to playground equipment.
that's
It would
why,
be some fixes. We could patch some things.
Yeah.
But the goal is to get those playgrounds funded mostly through grants.
Okay.
As of right now, but court resurfacing and or amenities as picnic tables, new trash cans, things like that. We could definitely do some upgrades in regards to surrounding amenities in the park.
so I mean, that makes sense to me. I don't know this for certain, but I might think that the district, for Commissioner Steinberg, might like to see this money used for something that, there's a visual immediate impact. I don't know if any of those qualify for that. If anybody else has a better idea for what our third priority might be, I'm certainly open to it, but I like the idea of the tree planting and the cybersecurity upgrades.
Mr. Mayor, I think it's actually a great idea because recently, this past Sunday, my kids spent almost the entire day at the park. And I left there with the intention to request a walkthrough with the manager to talk about how we can get some maintenance funds into the rec center and the trash cans, picnic benches that need replacing, regular benches that need replacing. I would almost say this should be, if not the top priority, number 2, because that court resurfacing was supposed to be funded 3 fiscals ago. And it was not. There's pooling water. It's unlevel. I'm sure that, and it's probably the most used amenity at the rec center. There's people playing basketball every day. So I think it has pickleball lines as well. You could play pickleball. But I think that and the rest of the 25, I don't know if 25 would cost the entire court, but the rest of the 25 being used towards picnic benches and things like that is a great use of those funds. I mean, if you go around and look at some of our trash cans and picnic benches, they needed replacement 5 years ago.
That's
So,
kind of the thought that I had. So unless the rest of the commission has a better idea for that third priority, I think recreation upgrades, and we can get
If so, for example, is it something we can use as a match for a grant? So can we go and say we are going to go and explore $25,000 for any of these 3 things with the idea that we put it towards a matching grant?
She didn't say specifically that we can use it for grant matching.
Yeah.
She did mention that we could use it for planning, like, cause planning, just that part costs money. These 3 things, well, data security, I don't know, but at least rec upgrades and trees, I don't think would require any planning, so we could kind of go straight to project on those. And I would love that 25 to make an immediate or as close to an immediate impact as possible.
But I'm saying, say we commit to spend for trees.
Yeah.
We can still talk to our grant writer and say, we have $25,000 we're planning to spend on trees.
Mm.
We're looking to match it against any potential grant that will get us that. The spend is going to be there regardless. It would be through the process of application of a grant so that we
I don't know the answer.
double it,
So maybe the direction for the manager would be to, let's take this list that we've identified and have him provide it to Commissioner Steinberg's office and ask for some clarity on how the money can be used. Can it be used for matching funds, for grants? Can it be used for planning? Can it be used just for purchasing materials or, whatever it may be. And then we can find out. 'Cause I don't know the answer. She didn't say specifically. So if everyone's all right with that, I think that would be a good way to go to identify those three projects. Have the manager write those up and provide them to Commissioner Steinberg's office.
That's fine with me.
So those are the three. Al, I'll reach out and let them know that it's coming. Right, so, having wrapped CIP, having wrapped that 25,000 and the priorities there, I think that is the final, department for our budget review. So let's, do as we said we intended to do at the beginning of this meeting. Is there a motion to table this ordinance so we can revisit the original ordinance?
Motion to table ordinance 2025-02.
A second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so, let's revisit, our ordinance 2025-01, which adopts, the 9.3 millage rate. Do we have to move to reopen it, Brad, or can we just,
Move to reopen.
okay, is there a motion to reopen?
Move to reopen.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. So I don't know that we did we hold public comment on this? Just to make sure okay, we did. All right, just wanted to make sure we did. So if there's no discussion on ordinance 2025-01, do I have we need a roll, right, Madam Clerk?
It's as
As
Motion-
amended.
Motion to approve as amended.
Second it.
Hey, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Gross,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Samara,
Yes.
Commissioner Amsler,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez, Commissioner Huntington.
Yes.
The item passes 5-0 as amended.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. So do I have a motion now to reopen ordinance 2025-02?
Motion to reopen.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we've already taken public comment on this ordinance. We've already completed discussion. So is there a motion to approve the ordinance?
Motion to approve.
Second it.
Okay, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Gross,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Samara,
Yes.
Commissioner Amsler,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez, Commissioner Huntington.
Yes.
Item passes 5-0 in first reading.
Great, thank you, Madam Clerk. And just for last housekeeping item, when's our second? Is it September 24 at 6 p.m.?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we'll be back on September 24 at 6 p.m. for our second read and approval of upcoming year's budget. 24th,
Yes.
correct. 24th, it's a Wednesday at 6 p.m. All right, so just to echo Art's sentiment, thank you to our manager, thank you to all our departments, thank you to Paul, thanks for everyone for all of your hard work. I'm excited about this budget, so do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, everybody.
Just before we leave, Mr. Mayor, just to let everybody know, we're taking that Norfolk pine out tomorrow morning.
The pine?
Yeah, we're removing it tomorrow morning. On an emergency basis, and it's within my authority, and we're bringing it to the October just to.
You have an arborist report on it?
Yes, I do.
Would you mind sharing?